another video. My name is Spencer Davidson. It's a Real Money Network, and today we're going to be talking about how you can get your very first deal wholesaling real estate. So in this video, we're going to do a complete breakdown. I'm going to show you exactly what I did when I got my first deal, exactly what you can do to get your first deal for little to no money. Go about finding them, how do you go about having that conversation, and how do you go about closing said deal. Mindset, right? We got to have the right attitude. We got to be able to willing to take risks. We got to be willing to start and take action. And the action you need to be willing to take is you need to be willing to commit to the idea that you're going to be doing this and it's going to take some time. The second action you got to commit to is the phone. You got to be comfortable calling people. You got to be comfortable reaching out to people. Now, what you say and how you go about it, there's plenty of online scripts out there. You can type in wholesaling real estate scripts. I'll drop my script down below so you guys can have access to that and exactly what I say to these property owners. And those two commitments there is going to get you a long way. Now, how do we go about the nitty gritty? How do we go about the fundamentals of this? Now, that's what we're going to go into now. So if I was trying to find a property, trying to find my first deal that I wanted to wholesale, two things you need. One, you need a phone. Okay, you have to have a phone. You have to be able to reach out to people. Okay, that costs me $140 a month to have a phone. Most people in America have a phone, so there really shouldn't be an excuse on why you can't do that. Just use your cell phone. Okay, you don't need some fancy dialing system right now. You don't need some fancy, CRM right now, although it is recommended. Those things you can add on later, right? Right now, we just want to find our very, very first deal. And so you don't need all of those things. The second thing I would highly recommend getting, if you have a laptop, is PropStream, okay? The software that you see here on my right is what I would highly recommend. And behind me is I would highly recommend getting this software. It's called PropStream.com. Now, the reason why I like PropStream is because it is a real estate data software. Basically, I am able to look up homeowners, their property info, populates their address. I can see how much equity they have in the deal. I can see if they're behind on payments. It's an endless world, really, of what we can look into and what we can do with this software. And this software costs $99 a month. I am not affiliated. I am not selling anything for them. I don't care if you download it or not. I just highly recommend that you do because, again, at the end of the day, my personal opinion is you need some of this. You need to be able to pull the list. You need to be able to find these property owners that that you can find, you can make a deal happen with, right? And so, yes, you can go on Zillow and you can look at for sale by owners. That's another one that you can do. And you can just start making offers to the for sale by owners. But really what I like about PropStream, just for $99 a month, is you can really look at a person's detailed information, right? Like I said, you can get their phone numbers by skip tracing the data. You can, filter the list. If they own the home, if they rent the home, things like that. You can look at certain equity types, and we'll go in that here in a little bit, right? So when I have PropStream up, what I'm looking at, when I'm pulling the data list, and we're going to go ahead and pull up to our big screen here, is let's say I want to look. We'll just pull a list here in my local county, right? So let's say you want to just pull a list in your neighborhood. You want to be able to drive by the properties and take a look at the properties. You want to shop in your backyard. Let's just say you want to do that. As you get more experience, you can expand your territory. But that's for another video. We're just trying to get our first deal today, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to type in Bay County, Florida. Okay. So I want to pull this list, right? We're going to pull a list for Bay County, Florida. So it's going to show us all of the homes that are available in Bay County, Florida. And I'm just going to go ahead and clear all the filters real quick. Okay. So we're going to log into PropStream and we're going to go to Bay. I'm going to go to my county, Bay County, Florida. So type in your county, local county, wherever you live, and then it'll populate here on PropStream. Again, $99 a month. Highly recommend it. It's totally worth the investment. Okay. So as we can see, there are 127,500 properties in Bay County, Florida. That is quite a few properties, right? We're not going to be calling all of these people. Don't worry. But we want to filter that list down. Now, the way I was taught to filter the list down when I got into the residential game was I brought it to asset class, right? So when I first started, I started calling multifamily properties and mobile home parks. And so there's a filter there where you can filter, multifamily properties. So if you want to get into multifamily properties, you just click on the filter and you add multifamily properties and that'll shift it down. But today I want to talk about residential because it's a little bit easier to do. There's more buyers out there. There's more inventory. And so with residential, the key indicators or the key things that I like to filter down The first one would be I like owner occupied. I don't want it to be owner occupied. I want it to be not owner occupied. And the reason is because somebody who is selling a property, and the reason is there's a difference between a home and a property, right? And so a home is somebody's place that their kids grew up in, maybe their grandkids grew up in. It's their own personal investment. It's super emotional experience. And a property is something that, hey, I just bought as an investment. I bought to maybe fix it up, to look to resell it. I bought it as a rental, and I'm dealing with a lot of headaches of this thing, or I inherited this property from a grandparent who passed away, and I don't want anything to do with it, right? There's a different in emotion. And so when I'm filtering these properties, I want to go with not owner occupied. So I'm going to click no here, occupancy status. I'm going to go with vacant. I want a little distress on this property owner, right? Maybe a tenant moved out. Maybe there's nobody living in it. They're still paying the mortgage. They're still paying the bills on it, but they're not having any income there. That causes a high stress environment. And that's going to create a great reason on why they will sell the property to you if you find it, right? And then we go to property. What I like to do is I want to go to property characteristics. And then this is where, again, we're going to go single family. Now, there's tons of different filters you can use. Like I said, you can do multifamily, you could do duplexes, you could do agricultural, land, whatever you're really interested in doing. And again, I started off doing multifamily and mobile home parks because I wanted to be an investor, and I accidentally got into wholesaling that way. Accidentally got into, hey, like I found a great mobile home park. Let's do some equity. Let's do an assignment fee. And yes, you can get bigger fees for mobile home parks and multifamily and commercial deals. There's just a lot less of them, and there's a lot less buyers. So again, we're going to stick to residential today because I think it's an easier barrier to entry. Okay, so here I click single family on the filter. Bedroom, bathrooms, I'm not going to be really too worried about right now. I kind of want more general. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to ownership info. And I want to deal with individuals. I don't want to deal with corporations. I don't really want to deal with trust accounts. I really don't want to deal with mixed. Now you can add those things in, but I'm trying to narrow this list down as specific as possible, right? I want not occupied by the owner. So it's either a second home or it's a rental property or it's something they inherited. I want it to be vacant, so there's nobody living in it currently. So maybe they're a rental property, they're not cash flowing anything because there's nobody in it, they're still paying for it. Or maybe it's a secondary property that they have that they're not really they just have it. They inherited the property, they just have it. They don't know what to do with it. And I want to deal with individual owners because, people with LLCs, people with trust accounts, they're more likely investors. They're maybe a little bit more savvy. They might be a little bit harder to work with, right? I want to deal with a mom and pop. I want to deal with an individual owner, somebody who's maybe owned it for 10 years or just inherited the property and they're like, I have no idea what the heck's going on with this thing. I just kind of got it, right? And maybe they want some cash, some quick cash, right? So individual. And then I want to go with valuation and equity. Okay, so estimated value, right? As you can see, we're already filtering down. We have 735 properties. So we went from 127,000 properties. Now we're already filtered down to 735 properties. So as we're putting these filters in, it's starting to really narrow down the list, which is preferred because again, all you have is a cell phone. It's not like you have a sales team. It's not like you have a dialer that can dial 100 properties an hour. You just have a cell phone, right? And so we want to narrow this down as specific as possible so you can target and it gives you a more realistic chance of getting a deal. And so now we're going to go down to estimated value. Okay. There's a lot of buyers from my experience. There's a lot of buyers in that $100,000, $50,000 range, $100,000 range, up to around that. It kind of gets a little scarce around that $300,000 to $400,000. Remember, we got to think about the end buyer here. Do you know a lot of people right now off the top of your head that would be able to get a line of credit, a loan, or have cash on them over $500,000 in their bank liquid? There's a few, but it's less likely than maybe a fix and flipper, right? Maybe the fix and flipper only has $50,000 or $100,000. Maybe a relative that might want to buy the property and they only have a couple $100,000, right? They don't have necessarily millions and millions of dollars to deploy. Now, the more experience you get, the more reputation you build, yes, you start getting some bigger investors, right? I have a couple hedge funds that I work with that have $5 billion in assets, right? They have millions and millions of dollars to deploy for single family houses. I didn't start out that way. I barely knew anybody, right? And that's another video on how we can go ahead about assigning that first deal. But today we're just going to talk about finding that first deal. And I found in my experience that the people around that 300,000 or less range, is really a lot more likely, and there's more deals that transact from investors or flippers or fix and flippers in that realm. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually do a $400,000 max because I do live on the Gulf or near the Gulf. So, a little bit higher price points where if you're like in Illinois, you might only want to go up to 300,000. But I want enough properties to call. So that's why I'm doing 400,000 because again, I live in a very high desirable area, resort type of community, right? And so I'm going to go $400,000 and then equity. We go down to equity here. Now I'm going to go to equity percentage and not dollars because it's just easier to do. And so what I learned from a coach of mine, who's somebody who helped mentor me into this space, is you want to call people that have a little bit of meat in the game. And the reason is because when I'm calling somebody and they have no equity in the property, it's a lot harder to do the deal because there's not as much incentive for them, right? Where at least if they have some equity, they have some cash that they can get out of the sale, they're a lot more likely to sell you the property because it's a lot easier to do a cash wholesale transaction because they're going to get a check, physical check or wired money into their account at closing. There's a little bit of incentive to do this, right? So that person who inherited their grandma's property, they don't really want the property, but maybe they want $100,000, right? There's a kind of $100,000 can do a lot for somebody. And so there's in exchange, there's a value that they get from actually selling this property where maybe somebody doesn't have that much equity in it. They're like, well, there's not really a point for me to sell it and only make $5,000, right? Or no money. Now, there's different methods and ideas behind that. For example, if you're doing sub 2, you take over payments with low equity. There's a lot of different nuance, but today I just want to talk about traditional cash deals wholesaling, right? We're finding our first deal today. Let's not go into the nuances of wholesaling and the different options, right? So with this, I like to go at least 30% equity. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go 30%. Okay. And then I'm just going to hit apply. And as we can see, there's 489 properties that fit not occupied. It's vacant. It's 30% equity and it's under $400,000 of value based on this software, like determining value. And so there's 489 properties in Bay County and it's single family residential. That's the last one in Bay County. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to skip trace this list. I need to call these properties, right? I need to call these homeowners. How do I get their information and get their data, right? And so again, we go to PropStream. We click on all of the properties. Oop, kind of hurt my neck here. All right, and we're going to go this way, and we're going to hit add to list. So now we can create a list. As you can see, I have a couple of lists here. I'm going to create new. Oh, let's see. I'm going to create a new list, and we're going to call it Bay County. Cool. We're going to save that list. Awesome. Now I've got 489 properties saved to this list. Okay, I'm going to hit close. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to we're going to hit the skip tracing tab. Okay, we got to select contacts. Okay. Well, let's see. We got Bay County, right? We're the 489 properties. Okay. Got all those names. So now what we want to do is we want to add the selected contacts. Okay. Hit done. All right. I'm going to hit next. Really hurt my neck here. Okay. And so for us to skip trace it, it's going to cost 12 cents a contact. Okay. So there's a little bit of money involved here, but as you can see, it's $56.28, right? And so why we want to do this and what it does is it's going to pull 1 to 2 to 3 numbers per contact. Okay. So now that we're skip tracing, it's going to add 1 to 2 to 3 numbers per contact. And it's going to give us a list of people to call. So now we have 489 prospects that we can skip trace that we can reach out to and start calling. Okay. So again, this is exactly how you're going to get your first deal. All right. Now I understand that it costs us a little bit of money. Okay. It costs us $99. Well, first off, it cost us, at first it cost us, $140 for your phone bill or whatever your phone bill is, but most people have a phone. If you're watching this, you're probably watching it on your phone, right? The second thing is PropStream costs $99. Okay. The third thing is we need to skip trace the data. I need their phone numbers. And the only way to get their contact information and phone numbers is by running it through a data system and skip tracing, which you can do on PropStream. And again, the result came out to being 12 cents a contact, which is 56 bucks. So all in all, and for 1 month, I've got $140 for my phone bill, which you're already paying for. I've got $99, okay, for the software PropStream. All right. And I've got $56.86 for skip tracing those leads. All right. So really we're looking at $150 or so, $155, right? For 1 month, okay, to skip trace those leads, to get a list of leads. All right. If you don't have that money, borrow it, ask somebody, do some extra chores, maybe do some overtime, but set that money aside so you now have 489 people you can call. Okay, so now that we've got the list, right? We pulled the data, we scraped the list, we spent a little bit of money on that list, but again, it's worth the investment because now it's going to give you a couple hundred properties, like we saw here, a couple hundred properties with 2 to 4 names that kind of fit in that criteria of what we're looking for or what an investor would be looking for. So what do we say to these people, right? This is kind of a big a question that people have, and I'm not going to go in super depth today. I just kind of want to cover the overview of what we're going to talk about. And I've got my script here. I can share the script with you guys. If you're interested, just comment below, share the script, and I'll be more than happy to drop it to you. You can copy a link down below as well. To the script, there's also a bunch of free scripts online, wholesaling residential. If you just type that in scripts in Google, you'll find a bunch, right? But the main things that we want to talk about, and when we're reaching out to these people, is the main talking points is we have our introduction. We have the introduction, okay? So we have the intro. We have our introduction. All right. What do we say to these people? How do we introduce ourselves, right? And now these people don't know if you're a wholesaler. They don't know if you're a buyer. They don't know if you're just some random person off the street. And so the introductions is very important in how you come off to these people, right? And so how we're going to do that is, hey, John, right? We're going to get the name when we skip trace it. Hey, John, this is Spencer Davidson. I'm a local investor here in Bay County. We buy anywhere from 2 to 3 properties a month to turn into rental properties, or maybe put some money into them and look to sell them down the road. I was just curious if you might be interested in selling your property or receiving an offer on your property right at this time. Okay, great. If they say yes, we're going to assume that they say yes, right? Okay, why? Oopsie. All right, hold on. All right. Okay, great. So now that we have the introduction down, they know who you are, they know why you're calling. Okay, now we want to get into the why and motivation. All right. It's hard to write on this thing. Okay, so now we want to get into the why and the motivation. This is how we kind of build the rapport, the relationship with the seller. Okay, so that we introduce ourselves, they know who we are. Now we want to figure out why they even want to sell in the first place. Okay, and so one of the questions that I like to ask is, especially as a wholesaler, somebody that's trying to, put the property under contract is, what has you, how long have you been thinking about selling, or what has you wanting to sell the property right now? Or is it a rental property, right? You don't want to just stop it there. You want to continue it saying, oh, is it a rental property? Just kind of dealing with tired tenants, or is this your personal property, or what's the situation? Now we know more than likely it's not their personal home. It might be, but for the most part, because of the list. But again, we want to add that in there so they can kind of feed us and tell us, right? Oh, hey, I'm getting a divorce. I'm getting divorced, or, I inherited this property from my grandmother who passed away, or, hey, I'm a little bit tight on money. I can't really afford the payments. I need to, those are certain things that are going to come up. And that's where you're going to start building rapport on the conversation and ask a little bit more questions regarding what they're saying, right? And you want to spend time here. A lot of people skip this relationship building aspect, but when they go and sell the property, you got to remember these people, there's a lot of people calling these people every single day. We're not the only people doing this. And so the relationship you build with these sellers is really, really important. And so whatever their why and motivation is, we want to build rapport around that. We want to build commonality, right? We want to know that we've dealt with their situation before, even though we haven't, because, right, this is our first deal, but we want to act like we have, right? And again, somebody that you might know has dealt with this situation before, but again, we want to come off professional. We want to act like we know what we're doing. Okay, because we already told them we're buying 2 to 3 properties a month, even though we haven't done a deal yet. But again, they only know what we tell them. It's selling the sizzle. It's selling the pizzazz, right? We want to show that we're competent. We know what we're doing. And this is a great way to do that. Okay, so they know who we are. They know why we're calling. We want to make an offer on their property. We're interested in their property. We find out why they're wanting to even entertain an offer or sell. And depending on whatever their answer is, we want to build a rapport and commonality. And I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong. We want to build rapport and commonality off of that answer, right? So for some of the rapport questions, we can build on, and commonality is, oh, okay, so let's say the situation is they're getting divorced. Man, that's bad. That's too bad. Is it, is it you're happy about it, or is it something that was unexpected, right? Oh man, that girl, she cheated on me. I can't stand her. This is the only thing keeping us together, right? The house is the last thing that needs to go, and she's just been so difficult to work with. Okay, great. We want to lean into that a little bit. Hey, John, I know I completely understand, man. In fact, I actually had somebody last month. We bought their property in the same situation. It's kind of ugly, right? But thankfully, we were able to, get an offer that made sense for everybody, and we were able to close in little as 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, right? So it was actually a win. So I'm sorry you're going through that, but I definitely think we can help you. Okay. Those things that you talk about and the rapport and commonality, it's going to come with time. You're not going to be able to answer it perfectly on your first call. It's going to take hundreds and hundreds of calls to understand this and get better at it. But you can kind of get a general idea. And the big thing with the call is making sure that you're listening and that you're just chiming in where you chime in, right? If he spends 10 minutes on the phone telling you about how much he hates his ex-wife, just let him talk, right? And acknowledge. Let him talk and acknowledge, okay? Then once we start building rapport and commonality based on their why and motivation, this is where we want to get into. I like to find out the pricing expectations, right? I kind of want to get an idea of what they're thinking price-wise, okay? So I at least have an understanding of, hey, is there a deal here or is there not a deal here? Okay, and if for being at your first deal, you'll have no idea if this is a deal or not, okay? But at least you can kind of get an idea, and then we can start doing some research on where they are price-wise. Because if they have a price, then they've been thinking about this for a while, okay? If they don't have a price, then we'll help them come up with the price, all right? So price, how I ask price, okay? So how much, if you were to sell it, how much are you looking for? How much would you want for the property? Okay. And the reason I ask that question now is because I want to get a baseline of where they're thinking. Okay. So if they tell me that they want $100,000 for the property, okay, well, great. Now I have a baseline. I don't know if it's worth it or not. I haven't run my numbers yet. And that's something that we'll do in the next, here in a couple little bit. But at least I have an understanding. Okay, they want $100,000 for this property. Now, when you're talking to them, they give you a number for it. Yes, we want $100,000 for the property. All right. This is when you can start asking about the property. Okay. And so what I like to do with that is once we have the price, right? They give us a price. Okay. I always ask price before we talk about the property, because I want them to sell me on why this property isn't worth that. Okay. We're talking about price. So they want $100,000 for the property. Okay. This is the next question. Let's talk about the property. All right. Now we're going to go into the property. Oh man. Hold on. Now, I want to talk about the property, okay? Yeah, they told us a baseline price, okay, property. One of the questions that I asked about the property is, tell me a little bit about what you got going on with the property. And if they don't understand what that means, most of the time they'll open up the floodgates and they'll say, oh man, yeah, I've had it for 8 years. I've had tenants in there for the last 8 years. They don't pay me any rent. They beat up the property, and they start going on this tangent of what's wrong with the property. And that's ammunition you can use later on. But, if they ask you, what do you mean? I'm just curious, we can start with the exterior. So I noticed maybe a brick exterior. Do you have any issues? Can you tell me a little bit about the exterior of the property? Oh, it's vinyl siding. It probably needs to be replaced. There's some holes in the siding. Okay, gotcha. How is the curb appeal? How is the landscaping? Yeah, it's kind of overgrown. My tenants don't really take care of that much. And again, as they're talking, dollar signs start adding up, right? You start dialing up the dollar signs here. How's the neighborhood? I've drove by, but I couldn't quite tell. Is it more of a renter's neighborhood or is it more of a homeowner neighborhood? Oh, yeah, we've had homeowners here. Unfortunately, the homeowners around me are kind of letting their property go. Again, that drives price down, right? And so you're letting them tell you what's going on and what's going wrong with the property. You don't tell them what's going wrong with the property, right? Okay, so we start with the exterior, then we're going to go to the interior. Okay, so again, we're talking over the phone here. And they might ask you to come over. And if you're in the county, I mean, feel free and walk the property. I'm just kind of talking about how you can virtually do this all over the phone. But if you want to book an appointment to go check out the property, feel free and do that. If you're local and this is your first deal and you want to walk through the property, great. If not, you want to do it over the phone, you can do that as well. I have personally never toured any of the property that I've wholesaled. So you can do this all over the phone. But now we've done the exterior, let's go to the interior. Okay, so as I walk in, can you kind of explain to me what I'm going to see, what's kind of going on? I see it was built in 1960s based on the information that we have. Does it still look like it's stuck in the 60s? Does it have popcorn ceilings? Is it hardwood? Is it carpet? Again, all of those things are going to be ammunition that we can use to come in with an offer. Okay, yes, it's carpet. It's old carpet. I probably need to replace that. The tenants have dogs. The kitchen, yeah, the appliances don't really work and it hasn't really been updated much. You probably would want to replace the floors. Like they'll tell you the things that they wanted to do with the property, but they not necessarily have done to the property, but the things that they've always wanted to do to the property, right? Oh yeah, I would, if I had the money, I would put in all new flooring, new countertops, blah, blah, blah. Again, driving their price down. Okay. So once we got some of the property information or some of the property details, this is when I go in for what's the best price you think you can do for me. One of this line I learned from RG Bates. I think he's the best at this, and it usually gets you a significant deduction off the price just without even negotiating. They're negotiating against themselves, right? So they said $100,000 is the price, right? And they just told you about all the problems that they have going on with the property, or they told you about how nice the property is, even though they're probably lying. But again, it is what it is, right? They want $100,000 for this property. You heard about all the things that are going wrong with the property, with the exterior, with the windows, with the flooring, with the dog pissing everywhere, with the landscaping looking bad, the neighbors' homes look like trash, right? So now we're going to talk about how to get a discount before we even make an offer. Okay, so the line that I like to use, and I call this the best price line. Okay, now that we've gone through, we should be about 20 minutes into this phone call now, maybe 15 to 20 minutes plus into this phone call, but I use the best price line. And what I do is I ask them, so if we were to pay cash, closed in 3 weeks, and we took care of the commissions, or we took care of the closing costs and there's no commissions, what's the best price you think you could do for me? And usually what that's going to do, so if there's no commissions, right? Because, there's no agents involved, so there's no commissions. No commissions, okay? I pay closing costs. I'll pay the closing costs. Closing costs. Pay cash, because people think cash is king. Even though we might use hard money or the buyer might use a loan or whatever. We pay cash. And we close in, let's say, 30 days. Okay, so best price. If there's no commissions involved, I pay the closing costs. We pay cash and we close within 30 days. What's the best price you can do for me? Now, I love using this line because what's going to happen is you're immediately going to get a 10 to 20% discount right off the rip. Okay, so that $100,000 property just became, that $100,000 deal just became 90, okay, or even better, 80,000. Okay, I don't know why I just wrote out 90,000 or 80,000. Okay, just by asking that simple line. Okay, the next thing we got to do is we need to go into the offer. What do we feel comfortable offering? Okay, so they said, okay, best price you could do for me is 80 or 90,000. I could maybe do 80,000. I'll do 80,000. Okay, great. Now we have a baseline. Okay, so now while we're having this conversation, and again, for a beginner, this is your very first deal. I know I'm going into a lot of depth here. And so what I would do is I'd watch this video many, many times and break it down very, very slowly. You might not be able to get through the entire phone call, all of the steps, right? You might only get into, hey, they're interested in selling. Okay, great. Maybe they hang up on you. Okay, well, at least they're interested in selling and you can call them back. Okay, and then you can progress the conversation. Maybe you get into the property a little bit, but hey, they got to get going. They got to run, they hang up the phone. Okay, now you know about that they're interested in selling. You know a little bit about the property. You might need to call them back and continue the conversation. this is a multi-step process. It might not happen on the first call, okay? And if it does, that's great, but be prepared to if it doesn't. But again, I just want to go through the entire process with you so we kind of have a general idea of what's going on, right? Okay, so now we got to a place where they said, okay, we got to the best price, right? Now we want to make an offer, okay? And so while you're calling these people, once you get skilled enough, you can do this while you're talking to them on the phone. You can start looking at comparables in the neighborhood that maybe a fix and flipper has already found. You can do it on Zillow, right? But just a general rule of thumb, right? Let's say we're looking at Zillow and we say we found a 3-bedroom, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I'm gonna go up on Zillow and we'll just go a general rule of thumb, okay? So let's go to Zillow real quick. All right. Again, I'm gonna see here. Okay, great. Now we're on Zillow. Let's exit out of that. We'll go with Bay County. Okay, so let's say this is a 3-bed, 2-bath. And I'll do a more in-depth video on this, but I really just think it's beneficial to share with you guys on how I go about this, okay? So we're in Bay County, Florida. Let's say it's a 2-bed, 1-bathroom home. Okay, so we can type in 2-bed, 1-bath. Okay, we can go home types houses. It's a single family house, right? And this is what kind of pops up here. Okay, so now we're in Bay County. All right, let's say we have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. So let's go more specific. Let's go Panama City, Florida. Right? Let's say the home's in Panama City. We want to be specific because Panama City and Panama City Beach are completely different. Panama City and Fountain, Florida is completely different. Okay. So now we have properties and we want to make sure it's sold and not for sale, right? This is how we're going to run comps, right? We want properties that have sold so we know what's kind of going on in the area. And what we want to do is just kind of get a general idea of what's going on here. So we want to go to the newest so we can see what's recently traded. So we have a 2-bed, 2-bath. 1,400 square feet that sold for 150. We have a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot that sold for 200. We've got some new builds that are selling for, wow, a lot of money. We've got this 2-bed, 1-bath that sold for 210. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay, so this one's 2-bed, 1-bath. It's cute exterior, nice hardwood floors, a little bit dated in the kitchen, but that's move-in ready. That's a nice home. That's 2-bed, 1-bath. Okay. It's on Grace Avenue, which is up here. Okay, cool. So now we looked at that one. Let's try and find another one that might not be as attractive. Okay, and you have this one that sold for 80,000, right? If you look at the street view, see, and these are the properties that we're calling. That's what's going to look like, right? And so it's all messy. It's nasty looking. It's got overgrown. These are the type of properties we're going to be calling, guys. These are the type of properties that are like gold mines, right? And as you saw, it sold for 80,000. Okay. So if I use that as an indicator, if I use this 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, this one sold for 80, but I want one that's kind of finished and ready and moved in, right? That one sold for, what do we have, 210? Well, let me find that property again. Okay, we found that one that sold for 210, this cute one here, with the metal roof. It's small, it's 962 square feet. We know that property sold for 210,000. Right? So that gives us a baseline of where we can offer. Okay, I want to pull this back open. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I want to pull this back open. So that property gave us a general guideline. Let's say it's a 2-bed, 1-bath, 2-bed, 1-bath. It was move-in ready. It wasn't spectacular or anything, but it did sell for 210,000. Okay, what we're going to call that, and you might have heard this if you've watched other videos, especially if you're already thinking about getting your first deal, you probably heard of this. We call that ARV. ARV, after repair value. So if I buy this property and I fix it up to those standards, which, wasn't immaculate or anything, but it was a good, decent home, that property sold for 200,000. So we're going to use that as our baseline. So how do you know where to offer? Okay. A general rule of thumb is taking this number, timesing it by 0.75, okay? And the 0.75, that 25%, the way you can look at it is the investor, okay? That's going to be the investor's money. Okay, that's going to be their profit. That's going to be their loan costs. It's going to be their hard money loan costs, right? Okay, that's going to be kind of some of the stuff that they put into the property. that the stuff that you don't necessarily see. Okay, so this is a general rule of thumb. Okay, so if we take 210,000, let me get a calculator here. Oh, that's $157,500. Okay. Okay. So this is where we would want to buy the property, or the investor would want to buy the property if there were no rehab needed, right? So let's say the investor wanted to buy that property without any rehab, without any expenses or anything like that, no money being needed put in there to make a little bit of profit. They would need to buy that property for $257,000. Okay, that's with no rehab or anything. Okay, so now that we know, okay, the property we're looking at after what he's told us needs. Okay, the property now we know. Okay, so 210 is the ARV on that property, right? The after repair value is 210. We know we need 0.75 off of that, so that equals $157,500 is the purchase price. But based on the conversation we just had with the seller, we know that the windows are jacked up. We know that the flooring is jacked up. It's got old raggedy carpet in there. We need to replace that. Maybe there's hardwoods underneath, but he doesn't know about it. That'd be a gold mine, right? And so some of these things start adding up. Now, let's say, again, it's a 2-bed, 1 bath. It's 900 square feet. Okay, that's going to be a lot less rehab. That's going to be a lot less rehab than it would be if it was a 2,000 square foot house with 4 beds, 3 baths, right? It's just going to be a lot less. Okay. And so what we can calculate in there for rehab, let's say we need to do the floorings, the kitchen, let's say foundation is good, the windows are fine, and the roof is okay. Okay. So it's just kind of cosmetic updates and painting. Let's just say we calculate a conservative $35,000 for rehab. Okay. So now we're at 157,000 minus the 35. That would be 122.5, okay, is where the investor wants to buy the property at, okay, because he knows he needs to put in $35,000 worth of work, okay, to get to that ARV of 157, and he's going to resell it for 210 so he can have that profit in between, right, minus the other costs. He might get like 10 or 12% profit. Okay, so we know that the investor needs to get this deal for $122,500. That's what the investor needs it for. Okay. Okay, great. So we're going to lock it up at $122,500. We are not going to do that because then there's no money for us. Okay. So now how we make money and how we look at this and how we make money, again, ARV 210, 0.75 is 157.5 minus $35,000 worth of work. The investor needs it for 122.5. So now we need to get this thing. Anything we get difference is our money to keep. Okay, so now when I'm talking to this seller, right? He gave me the best price. Let's say let's say maybe 100,000 wasn't the right number. Maybe he said he wanted to sell it for 145, right? He said, yeah, I'll take 145 for my property. Okay, what's the best price you think you could do for me? Let's say we got him down 10, 20%. 20% would be 128. Let's say, I'm just guessing right now, roughly 128 would be his best price he could do for us, right? If we pay cash, closing costs, no commissions. Well, that's a problem because we know we need to get this deal for 122.5 just to break even, and that's us not making any money. Okay, so Mr. and Mr. Seller, appreciate you taking the time to talk on the phone today. I'm more than happy to get you an offer. I'm going to write this up right now while we're on the phone and send you a proof of funds as well. I get it for less than that to make any money. So let's say you come in. This is what I can do for you. I can offer you 100,000 cash, close in 30 days. 30 days. Boom. Okay. That's my offer. All right. And the reason I'm offering that is because now this is what the investor needs it at. This is what I'm going to assign it at. This is my assignment price. Okay. And my offer price is 100. So I have $22,000 that I can work with for profit. Now, that's totally up to you. Maybe they come back at, I need 110,000. Okay, great. Well, you still make $12,000 on a deal. Okay, if you can find the buyer for it. Okay, maybe they need it for, maybe they come back at 120. Okay, maybe you need to push them a little bit harder on negotiations. Maybe you tell them they come back at 105, right? You never know, but you're not going to know unless you come up with an offer. And again, this is the framework to come up with that offer. And so that's just kind of a general breakdown of how I look at doing deals and looking at it, right? I go when I'm on the phone with them, I look at Zillow. Now, again, this is about getting your very first deal. I might be getting carried away, and I apologize if I am. I'm just trying to provide as much value as I can for you. But if it's your first deal, you might need to tell them, hey, okay, great. I understand you want to sell it for 145. Let me get right back to you, okay? And you might need to go look at the comps yourself, okay? Hey, what are the other properties looking for? You might need to do that separately, okay? Don't be afraid to do that and call them back with an offer. And you call them back with the $100,000 offer. The reason is I'm going to have to put in about $35,000 to $50,000 worth of work based on our conversation. You know, I'm going to have to do the flooring. I'm going to have to do the plumbing. I'm going to have to do the HVAC. I'm going to have to do the roof, even though maybe the roof doesn't need to be replaced. Again, you just want to lean in on all the problems that they told you about during the rapport motivation in the property phase, right? When they tell you a little bit about what's going on, okay, you want to lean into that as hard as possibly can. And you don't want to tell them that you're going to sell it for 210. You might tell them, hey, I could maybe sell this for 157. 160, right? They probably don't know the market, especially if it's a rental or if it's a secondary home. They don't keep up to date with the market. So yeah, hey, I might be able to sell this for 160, and I'm gonna have to put 35 to 40 into it. I'm only wanting if I can profit 12% after closing costs and commissions, because when I sell it, I'm gonna have to relist it with an agent. I think that's fair, to put 10% for taking on all the risks in investing and fixing this thing up, right? It's a great way to negotiate. It's a great way to bring that price down. And again, you want to give yourself enough spread in the beginning where if they say yes, okay, great, you got a great deal. But if they say no, you might need to come off $5,000, right? Maybe you need to come up $5,000, 105. Okay, well, that's still $17,500 that you can make into your pocket. Maybe they come up 10 grand. Okay, well, now you only have 12,500. Okay, well, that's still better than no money, right? But you still want to make sure that you know where the investor needs to be at so you can come in and make the difference. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. So now that we know we need to come in at 100,000, all right. Let's say they accept our $100,000 offer. Okay. What next? Okay. What next? Okay, I get it, Spencer. We did the math. We wrote the offer. Okay, they signed the offer. We signed the offer. We have 35 days and we have no investors. We have no idea what to do with the property. Okay, the next thing we got to do is we got to dispo the property. Okay, call it dispo, aka we need to find the buyer or investor. Now, there's a lot of companies out there that you can work with that will actually help you do this. One of my good friends and actually my mentor in this business, Tony Mont, he has a nationwide dispositions team, aka he has a list of buyers that he works with in every single market throughout the United States. You can send him this deal, you can input the deal, and you can get 50, and he'll take 50%, but it's still better than not doing the deal. Now, maybe before that, you try and find another investor or find another buyer for it. And I'm going to show you how you can go about doing that and one of the quick ways to do that. Okay. So again, this is a great way to do it. This is kind of like the no resources, no connections way of doing this, right? So when I go through this list, okay, and we're already on Zillow, I want to find homes that look like they've been renovated before, right? Someone maybe gone in there and fixed and flipped it, right? And so again, this is just kind of a general overview about how I could find that said buyer. Is I'm going to go through. Okay, maybe that one. That looks like it's got some new siding. Oh yeah, and a big give, a big takeaway, or a big what's the word I'm looking for? A big giveaway that they're a flipper. As you see the flooring, look at that flooring. That's brand new flooring, right? Okay. You look at the marble. You put some guy put in marble tile. Okay, this is you got the new countertops and the Kia cabinets and the hood vent. This is definitely a fix and flipper, and this is our bread and butter. This is exactly who we want to reach out to. Okay, and so if that's the person we want to, that's the exact person we'd be looking for, and I found him in 2 seconds, right? Okay, so we want to go to this property, and here's what you do. Oh, where'd he go? Ah, there we go. Okay, we want to go to the property. It just sold. They just flipped the deal. Looks like they made some money. They sold it for 131. And another key, let's say another key giveaway is you can look at pricing history. Let's see what he bought it for. Ah, he bought it for $42,000. That is definitely an investor, and he bought it in 2018. Okay, that's an investor if I ever saw one. Okay, so that's a fix and flipper. So what do we do? How do we get in touch with this person? There's a few ways. You can look up the property on PropStream, and you can find the buyer who had it, and you can skip trace that LLC information or that investor information or that name and type it in and try and get their phone number. Or another great way to do it, call the agent. Lisa. Hey, Lisa. I saw you had sold a property here on Bay Avenue in Panama City. Was that an investor you were working with? Oh, awesome. Hey, I've got this amazing deal. I don't have the bandwidth to take it down right now, but I would love to pass it over to your investor if he's still in the market. Oh, he is? That's awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so Zillow, look for Zillow rehabs. All right, so Zillow rehabs. The key giveaways are flooring, countertops, things like that. No furniture in the house. There's no clothes in the closet. You know this is a fix and flipper, okay? And you reach out to the agent, and you say this: "Hey, Lisa, this is Spencer. I'm actually an investor myself here in Bay County, and I have a property on 11th Street. I have it under contract, but I have too many things going on right now, and I'm looking to assign the contract to an investor. I saw you just sold a property on Bay Avenue. It looked like it was a fix and flip, an investor. I was curious if they might be interested in this opportunity. And I'm willing to pay you. A commission." Now, most of the time, they double ended. They end up listing the property again, so they might not. They might even be like, "Hey, no, it's no big deal." But I'm willing to pay you a commission, a commission, right? Boom! As soon as they know they're going to be making money, they're going to be pitching that deal harder, like it's harder than anything else, right? Okay, so bam, you got to find a buyer. Now, maybe you want to find 5 or 10 of those. You want to find 5 or 10 of those so you can make a couple of different calls. And the first person might not have any money, so you want to be calling maybe 5 or 10 of those types. But that's a great way, the best way for a beginner to find a buyer, okay? So now let's break it down. Okay, hey, Lisa, here's the deal. It's $122,500 I'm assigning the contract for, okay? We know we have it under for 100, okay? All right, we close in 30 days, all right? And you're going to do an assignment of contract. It's literally like a page agreement that states, hey, this person is assigning this agreement and the previous purchase agreement, right? And again, all of these things you can find on Google, the documents, the agreements, the contracts. So just Google it. You'll be able to find it. And I'll go into an in-depth video on another one. This is getting a little long, so I'm not going to go over all of that. But you get an assignment of contract agreement stating you're going to sell the property for $122,000. Now, and you're netting, again, this is your assignment fee, right? But let's pay this lady a commission. She just brought you a buyer. She's being super nice. You want to build great relationships in the community. Some of the buyers that I work with today all came from agents. I'm more than happy to pay a commission. And so if we pay 3% on that, what is that? $3,800. So minus 3,800 in agent commission. Okay. You're still looking at, let's see if I can do this math real quick. You are still looking at 18,000. I have no idea if this is right. And I don't know, $300. I don't know, give or take. I'm just doing this math off the top of my head. And an assignment fee. And it closes in 30 days. Okay. That is how you're going to do your first deal wholesaling real estate. I don't know anybody else that's breaking this stuff down like I am. Again, I've been doing this for just over a year now. My first full year doing this, I made over $500,000 in assignment fees using these strategies here. And so again, if we're going to do a quick overview, a quick breakdown of what we just talked about, number one, okay, you need to find out who to call. All right, you have your phone, you have a phone, that's all you need. Okay, the second thing, you just want to download PropStream, pay the $99 subscription, type in the filters that we talked about, skip trace that list for another $50 to $60 to $100. Okay, so now you're all in this for $299 and start making the calls. We talked about what to say. We talked about how to say it. We talked about how to get their price down, how to comp the property. How do we know what to offer? We talked about all of those things, and all you had to do was invest $300 or so. $300 invested, and you just made $18,000. That's how you can do it in this business. And then what you do with that $18,000 after you close, that's another video entirely. I appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, do what you got to do. I am not selling you anything. I don't have a coaching program. I am just doing this because I truly care about helping you make some crazy money in this space in real estate. And again, you're a teacher, you can do this. You're a firefighter, you can do this on the weekends. You're an accountant 9 to 5, call from 5 to 8, call on the weekends. Do whatever you have to do. Make your phone calls, do what I just told you to do in this video, and you will make some money that you have never seen before. This stuff adds up very, very quickly, and it can be life-changing money. You could pay off your college debt. You could pay off your car. You could pay off your house. You could reinvest back into the business. Maybe you could transfer full-time into the business, right? I know tons of people that do this part-time that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They just kind of like their job and they keep it for whatever reason. But you could be that person too. It is definitely doable, and I just broke it down for you in the last however long this video was. So again, please like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever you got to do to grow this channel. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one.